Empower 11, the best of its kind in a highly transformative time. Are you empowered? Ready to turn your life up to 11? Awaken the life of who you are on the inside to match the life you were meant to live on the outside. Empower 11. Now is your time.
Empower 11 Radio. Greetings and welcome to Empower 11 Radio. Today is December 12th, 2012. Yes, it's 12/12/12. And this is the live 1-hour show coming to you from Santa Barbara County. And you're either listening to us live on Spreaker, or which is an app you can get on your iPhone or Android, or you can go to the Spreaker website and listen to us, or you can listen to our archive shows always on iTunes. So check that out on iTunes. It's Empower 11. It's EMPOWER, the number 1. You can learn more about us at empower11.com. And make sure to like us on Facebook, facebook.com/empower11. And we always love to hear your feedback. So send us those emails to info@empower11.com. I am Jack Voorhees, and I am sitting next to my beautiful and talented co-host and partner in life, Ann Ribley.
Well, hello there, Jack.
So I am sure that you have lots to say about the 12/12/12 and the new moon and all that's going on today.
Yes, I do.
Good energy.
Yes, I'm feeling so lucky that our radio show landed on this day.
You think it's luck?
I'm feeling so blessed and in bliss here. You know, 12/12/12, we started in Empower 11, opened and launched on 11/11/11, which was a time universally where it was an opening up, where truthfulness is being activated in our lives. We can see it in our world around us, that whatever is false is being called to task to rebalance itself in order to get to a better place of truth and harmony with our natural world, with our lives, with our relationships. And now here we are on 12/12/12. And so what is the power of these numbers? Well, the 12, the 1 and the 2 turn into a 3. And this is about, 3 is the number of manifesting. It's like when you tell someone something 3 times, it sticks. So it's got the power to manifest. So
it depends on if you're telling it to a teenager, then it's 3 times 3 times 3 times 3.
Exactly. That's why the 12/12/12 is so powerful, because it's the 3, it's the 12 is the, when you break down the number, it turns into a 3, the 12 into a 3, the 12 into a 3. So it's 3 threes, which that's why 9's a powerful manifesting number, because it's the 3 times. So it's a highly powerful, sticking powered number of manifestation, which is what we're on today. And tonight, after midnight, our time here, Pacific time, so wherever you're at in the world, it still is, the point is that we're going to go into a new moon tonight. And the new moon is the power of calling forth the manifestations we want to create. So how powerful is that? On 12/12/12, the next day is turning into the opening of the new moon, which is the powerful manifestation of what we want to create. So I just see this as such a highly energizing, manifesting day.
And we always do a ceremony on the new moon, and we write down what we want to become, what we want to have.
Bring forth in our lives.
Bring forth in our life.
What we want to be, what we want to manifest. And doing this new moon ceremony, I tell people you can use a tea light candle. You always want to use a candle that you can leave unattended and it remains safe. So like you could use a tea light candle where you write out your list, and when you're done, you fold it up and put it beside your candle, light your candle, and as you light your candle, you say become.
Yeah, so we take no liability for any fires or that Yeah.
However, what I was going to say is that, I recommend using a tea light because a lot of times people have them around their house and it remains safe. But you can also use those 7-day prayer candles, which they're sold almost everywhere. Like people don't realize them at grocery stores. And you light those and they remain lit and they're in this glass jar and they stay lit for exactly 7 days. So I'm going to do that for today, for this one. I'm going to really pull in the power of this. So as you see the candle still lit, it can remind you of the power of what you want to bring forth.
All right. Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm looking forward to doing that. So today's show is about divine mapping. And what is divine mapping to you?
Well, that's why I'm so excited, because of the date and everything. It's really about this synchronizing place that's powerful, and it's intentionalized with bringing together what we want, what we know to be true for us inside, and creating it out in our life. And I always look at it in the simplest terms of where you get in tune with this great vastness of the vibration of life itself, this pulse of life, where God can dream a bigger dream for us. So you get in tune with that and you get into this natural rhythm and flow to create a life that's on track with pretty much like the synchronistic destiny we're meant to live.
There's amazing parts of life that is, if you're 1 minute too fast, 1 minute too slow, you miss it. There's this part about like just these things just lining up for us, and if we would have turned right instead of left, it wouldn't have happened. Or if we would have stopped to get a coffee or whatever, these things wouldn't have unfolded. Like, how did you meet the person that you're a partner with, that you love, and where did you find love? And how easily that could have been just kind of missed. But I think that there's forces that pull, us together, that have this like magnetic energy. And, I had this Jeep Rubicon, this kind of like a regular, old style boxy Jeep, but on steroids. So, I had this, off-road tires and all that stuff, and I was actually one of the people that actually drove them off-road, and and I would love to just go out in the wilderness and just go on these trails, having no idea where they would lead and stuff. And often I found myself just coming to just falling upon this most beautiful places. And that there's some that would okay. So I lived in Michigan, and a lot of people don't know that there's the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. They just what is Michigan shaped like, and they hold out their hand like it's a mitten, But there's this whole other piece above that, and it's the Upper Peninsula, or we call it the UP, and the people that live there, we call them Upers and stuff, and
it's beautiful wilderness up there, a lot of it.
Yeah, a lot of untouched wilderness and stuff. So there's certain areas, though, of it that have been made into scenic kind of touristy stuff. Dequamenum Falls and stuff, which are beautiful to see and everything, but they have it all kind of roped off, and like little observation areas and stuff like that. And it's funny, I didn't choose that path when I went in that area, and I ended up on the other side of it, and I ended up kind of like walking up, and I get to this beautiful spot where I'm standing literally on top of this waterfall, and I look over, and there's all these people that they're viewing it from this observation platform.
Yeah.
And and I was right in it. I was in the beauty of it, and not trying to see things in like more of a manufactured way. So I mean that's what I mean by this. What it kind of symbolizes with me is getting into this place where you're following your own path that is in the truth of who you are, and it's not something that's maybe set for you or following the way other people are doing it. It's getting in this really truthful place and trusting that the universe is supporting you in that kind of journey.
I know that I want to really have a discussion and open up how getting into a place where you're moving in this divine mapping with your life. It's not this psychologically forced set way of success or motivational living where, I know, Jack, you give the example all the time, is that, you get into the driver's seat of your life, and then some people will say to you, oh, well, I'm not the driver, God is the driver. And so divine mapping to me is about this empowered state where your power comes from something greater than yourself and the forces of the mind, and you're open to all that possibility as you drive here your groundedness, your purposefulness here on earth, and your contributions. So it's like if you get into the driver's seat and it's this forced psychological motivational state, people who get in there and just, I'm not listening to you, I'm doing my own thing. They could run over people, they're just driving and they're so tuned out with the world around them. Then there's others who are not taking charge and grabbing a hold of that wheel and the gifts that the Creator, God, this universal life presence that has given to us, and taken the necessary action steps in order to be moving in this unfolding, personalized destiny for them, because of the fact that they have turned it over and are almost passive.
Yeah, when people say to me, it's like, oh, I'm not the driver, God's the driver. And, I get that. I respect that. But I think that there's balance in this, and it is like the tuning fork. There's our part, and then there's this universal presence part. So when we get them to work in harmony with each other, then we are in tune. I mean, it's a very symbol of Empower 11: the tuning fork, the harmony, the getting in that good place within yourself, and getting your outside world to match the inside, or the inside to match the outside. It always seems to happen from the inside first, and then the outside starts to match in congruency.
Well, it's removing that fragmented state of being, where who you are, when it's fragmented and it's not clear and it's not in vibrational harmony with the world, then our possibilities are almost fragmented. But when you get that wholeness, that in-tuneness at any starting point where it's in tune, in presence, and vibration, then that rises up with the matching possibility, which is the symbol of 11 with our outside world, and they become exponential. And that's where the power becomes the symbol of 11, where it's not 1 + 1 is 2, but it becomes 1 + 1 = 11, because that vibrational harmony of who we are, and then that's where matches up with the outside world. That's where, we're moving in this divine mapping in our life, where there's tracks that are lining up, possibilities, opportunities, relationships, the right experiences that are going to totally enhance and empower our lives and fuel us on this destiny.
So these this all in the mind kind of stuff, I think that's more difficult today than maybe before, because of so much technology that we have. We have, when we're trying to find answers, we look them up, we're just bombarded by messages and TV and commercials and just all this stuff going on, and we're not so much in the tune of life. Like when we get back into nature and stuff, can really cause us to have this special places. This vibration just kind of comes forward, and the animals, they don't do a whole lot of thinking and planning and stuff. I mean, they're living in the now. They're in tune with they're not bombarded with messaging and everything. So when the tsunami came, hardly any of the animals got injured, because the animals all They were in tune with this life force, their divine mapping just instinctively had them leave.
Well, it's what that makes me think about, Jack, and I feel really that is so powerful to live in this place where we can get out in front of our lives. And I do believe that divine mapping, when we get into this really, divine tracking of where we know our path, we're going down that path, and we're in tune out in front of our lives. When we know that ahead of time, what happens is we can be making adjustments way before things happen, like when you're talking about these animals with the tsunami. Now, what makes me think about it's how are we using our state of being? And I know I've talked about this previously on other episodes, but it's like there's this place where we can really be living in the past, and we can be looking at the mistakes that we made, and the psychology of that is learning from our patterns, learning from what has happened, and making adjustments. But it takes a lot of energy because we're having to look in the past, we're having to analyzing the past. Then there is this place where we get sharp enough that we're seeing what needs to happen in the now as it's happening, and we're responding. And divine mapping is where we're actually so clear in our now that we've actually been able to move out ahead in our lives before we even really know what's happening. We're sensing it. We're getting a feel of it. We're getting a feel of our life, and we're making adjustments accordingly. And that's how the animals were able to get to, because there's a sense of they're so present in their now, and they're available to feel the energy before it even comes.
So Ann, do you believe that like everybody in the world was put here for a reason, that actually everyone has a purpose?
I believe that we all have contributions, and that are authentic and natural to us. And the more we get into those authentic, natural contributions of who we are, I feel like we become naturally energized because we're living in our authentic, natural state. And when we're in that place, what happens is our bodies are energized, our minds are energized, and we feel energized as human beings in our connection to the world. And a lot of times people get caught up and try to figure out, like they think their career or their job is supposed to be, how does that line up with my purpose, or what is my purpose? And really it's the gifts of who you are and what you're here to contribute. Those are the things that come natural to you. Those are the things that have been following you your whole life. And I do believe there's many facets we can plug in those contributions and those natural gifts of who we are. I mean, Oprah's a great example, because she even says that she knows that one of her gifts and one of her talents is to be a teacher. And it's just that platform that she's used. And she always says that she doesn't want to dismiss those people that maybe don't have the same platform as she does, but they're out doing the same level of teaching and work. So in our own lives, that's an example of there's different degrees, and someone could be a good teacher and contribute in that way. But it just varies in the range in which our personalized gifts of contribution are. And I do believe that when we tap into what are our natural ways to contribute, I do believe that life has this flow that gets really easy.
And that is our natural state, to contribute. It's when we get out of tune, then that's where people become like takers, and they're not making the world a better place. They're making it worse, but they feel like they're serving their own needs by doing so.
It's more of a withholding place where people hold back. They don't contribute out. I totally agree.
Or they kill. There's people that kill for, most of it's based on trying to accumulate some kind of wealth, or it's because you don't believe what I believe, so therefore I should kill you. That they believe that. And that's not a contributing way. I mean, it's really pretty much a diseased way of being.
Yeah, and a diseased way of being is a dis-ease, where there isn't that harmony, which is, everything we're talking about with that symbol of 11, where everything does get into vibrational harmony and it does get into this expanding energy. I mean, we're living I mean, we're living in a time where we see the power of exponential expansion happening, where we're no longer isolated into, small areas where we're not connected to other parts of the areas of the world, other people, other areas. I mean, we can get on an airplane now. We can be on the other side of the world in basically a day. I mean, it's just like we're living in such an expanding, connective place, which is a place of harmony. And so our contribution, when it isn't in a place of dis-ease, but it is a place of life, harmony, and flow, I do believe that we begin to tap into this divine mapping in a place that fuels us with all the things that are good.
Yeah. And I would like to ask the listeners, to, ask yourself this question. When I walk into a room, does the room get better for it? Am I contributing, to everything and everywhere I go? It's it can be small ways, but am I making it better or am I making it worse? Am I adding value or am I taking value away? We went to Starbucks yesterday and I pulled in. I was a little crooked, so I kind of backed out, and then I saw this car that was backing out, and so I stayed out in the lane. I stopped them, and I got out of the car, and I put my hand up for them to stop, and there's these two older ladies, and I think they looked a little worried.
I know, because this big tall man was coming towards their car at a pretty, rapid stride.
So I walked over to the passenger's window, and I took their drink that was sitting on the roof that they're about to drive off with this drink on their roof.
Their Starbucks cup.
And I grabbed it, and then they rolled down the window, and I handed it to them, and they were,
You see these big smiles on their faces. I was sitting in the car, I was looking back as he was doing all this, and all of a sudden you went from them like, well, oh no, what's happening, to like all of a sudden when he hands them their drink, these huge smiles of gratitude.
Right, and then that's contagious. So, when and I've talked about this before, and I think it's illegal. So, I don't know if you want to do this, but this is something I find myself doing, is that when I see parking meters that are out, I'd like to put coins in to to make sure that they don't get a ticket and everything. And I can play the tape all the way through. Like, what if that changes that person's mood today, and that reflects in all these other things that they do in that day, which reflect on other people and stuff. So, I just think that's, you can spread this joy that you can take so little of yourself, but it's really just being in this harmony, this tune, your divine way, your divine course, your power is not so much in force, but it's getting into this tune. So you can either float down the river, or you can try to paddle upstream, or you can try to head through the woods. But I prefer to float down the stream. I think that's your natural way.
It's interesting when you say this about contributing, Jack, is that this is something I see that that translates in your way that you even parent, because the word chores doesn't even get brought up in our house, even though the kids have responsibilities, and those responsibilities are classified as contributions. And this is a lot of the language that you'll use, Jack, is you'll say, in what ways are you contributing? What ways have you contributed to the house today? In what ways have you contributed? And even in the sense that you even come down to, are you contributing with peace and harmony with how you're interacting with everybody in the family? That's giving the kids responsibility even as siblings.
Yeah, I'll ask them, at the end of the day, like, in what ways did you contribute to the family today? And often I'll hear them say, I brought peace to my home,
which is a godsend.
Yes.
For me, I know that just having that transfer of ownership to even know where I'm, because it was always my running joke was that if you have boys, you're not a mother anymore, you're a referee. And so actually, Jack, since you've, instilled this place of, contributing as also being responsible for your energy that you're interacting with, and what you're bringing into the household. Is it more chaos? Is it more conflict? Or is it more peace? And is it more harmony? And just that shift.
Yeah, and I always try to instill with them, like, the one of the most selfish things you can do is be a great giver. Share joy and stuff, because that all comes back to you. It's all this, expansion and contraction, and what you put out always comes back to you in some kind of way. So if you're doing bad, then bad is going to come back at you. If you're doing
or
good,
disharmony is really better. It's like if you're doing a lot of disharmonizing actions or events, then a lot of disharmonizing action events is what you're going to invite back to you.
And you can kind of measure this, how well you're on track with this divine mapping, by how much you love your life. Because if you are not in a place where you love your life, then there's something that's a little off course. It could be a lot off course, but to get back on that course, you'll know it when you are in this real place of gratitude and have this love for life. And this love, I've talked about this. It is a decision. I believe that you have the power to decide to love your life, and then other things will start falling in track. So by not waiting for X, Y, and Z to happen before you start loving your life, start loving your life now, and then you'll find yourself getting more on this divine track course, this place of your authentic person, your purpose, and your natural passions and desires and talents flow into.
Well, it's interesting when you say, I believe it's a decision, because there's some people who feel like their life has configured itself in such a complicated way that it may feel hard to make the decision to love your life. But really, Jack, you always talk about, like, the thing that makes boats efficient is about getting the weight off of it, getting them lighter material that they're made out of, right?
Yeah, and that was something that my father helped develop, and he actually built a yacht that won Sailing Vessel of the Year, and for Showboats magazine. It was this big 110-footer, and what he did was he developed this honeycomb kind of board material that was made from recycled milk cartons, and he was able to panel that into the panels that saved like 60% of the weight.
Okay, so here's my point about that, is that when life feels complicated, heavy, and hard, and you say, okay, make the decision to love your life, that may seem hard for some people because there's all this stuff that's weighing them down. Mm-hmm. But here's how you do it, is you find at least one thing that you wholeheartedly love on the most simplest level, because that's how you start to get light. Then that's how you can start to get into that flow. Sure. Because if our focus or the energy is on anything that has the heaviness, it's going to be the weight that won't allow us to get into this flow, to begin to start floating and getting into a grace with our life. So even if our starting point is the one simplest thing, for, like, if somebody in their life is unhappy about everything, but they love their cat or they love their dog or whatever it is, it's finding that simple place to begin to make the decision to love.
Yeah, it may feel like you're heading in the total opposite direction of your purpose and your this place that you could love your life and everything, but you'd be surprised at just a few degrees change in course can make such a huge impact.
Well, you made this decision, Jack, by just being actually just present in a moment on a boat when you realized you were in this beautiful location, you were out on a boat, you were watching your son fish, which is all the things that people idealize as like the total dream life.
Yeah.
And then just even in that moment realizing, I can love this right now, and I've made this decision. When I walk off this boat, it's going to continue.
Yeah, it was, ridiculous to remain miserable, in this beautiful place, and it didn't have to be a beautiful place, but it was, it just kind of slapped me in the face about, wake the hell up. This is, life is short, and it's up to me to make the best out of it, to really honor this gift that I was given. So, I just decided I wasn't going to wait for X, Y, and Z to happen. I was going to start loving my life now. And there's a lot of power in that.
That's what I'm saying.
Love is the highest vibration.
And there is something that each of us, wherever we're at in our lives, we can begin to gravitate to and give that and feed that our energy and make that decision, because that is the energy that will get us lighter. That's the energy that will take the focus off the weight that doesn't allow us to float easy, to have that grace easy in life. Mm-hmm. And that's the energy that starts to invite in this divine mapping into our life, where then tracks that run towards us begin to get into this synchronized, powerful, intentionalized way that line up with ways that will continue to vibrate back to make us feel good.
Mm. It is interesting. Like, I like, there was a time that I was really, into woodworking and stuff, but I hadn't done it for a while because I was working in corporate, wearing the tie and all that stuff. My grandfather and we owned a business together, and I needed to make a light table to do my catalog layout on. I wanted a custom light table. I wanted it the way I wanted it, and I didn't want it any other way. And then, something that probably should have taken weeks to do, I did like in a day and a half. I had this huge light table done with this sliding dovetail joints and all these custom features, and it was really a thing of beauty. It was a piece of art. It was really, I amazed myself, but I got so into it and into the flow of doing it and making it and loving, what I was doing, and just, honoring that. And quickly this beautiful thing came, out of nothing, out of just a bunch of wood, so my thoughts became things, and
that's, it's really amazing when we get into that. That's divine mapping. That's what I'm talking about, and it manifests itself in so many ways.
Well, you must get into that when you're writing. There must be some times where it's just like, whoa, the words just flow out of your pen and it's just coming down, and there's other times it's got to feel a little
heavier. Yeah. And that you got to get lighter. You got to find the way in to get that path lighter, where the grace and the flow starts to build momentum. It's interesting when we stay true to the paths that fuel natural enthusiasm and passion. I really believe we build this powerful momentum, and momentum is nothing but moment to moment to moment strung together in ways that it becomes exponential in its energy, and it becomes momentum. And I love the idea of, the rocket, in order to get liftoff and to launch, it's got to go 11 kilometers per second, where it then defies the resisting energy of what is. And that's where it gets into this, powerful momentum. And we all have that ability to defy the resistance that is by stringing together our moments that creates powerful momentum.
And after it breaks through the pull of the gravity of Earth,
resistance,
then it just flows so much easier through space. It doesn't have to use all that effort in order to continue on. So, once you find yourself in this state of grace, then it's just honoring that and staying on course.
Yeah, it's easier to stay on course and fuel the momentum than it is to take the energy to start it. But you got to start somewhere. You got to begin the moment, and the next moment, and the next moment, till it does build the momentum. But it's always good to remember that, that it's easier to keep the momentum going.
They say that in the 12-step program. It's easier to stay sober than it is to get sober.
Oh, yeah. It's a classic example. I mean, it is. People know that even with exercising. I mean, I know that, and I've been exercising regularly for a while, that even if I take a few days, sometimes it's been a couple weeks, but it's never been long patterns. It's always harder that initial time than it is.
I'm swimming laps. I mean, it's just like if I'm out of sync with it, I haven't been doing it for a while. It just seems to take forever. But when I keep doing it, then it's like, oh wow, half hour's already done. Instead of this like, oh, looking at the clock, oh my God, it's only been 10 minutes.
Yeah, so it's getting totally present with that moment and then allowing yourself to get to the next moment and building this powerful momentum.
So, I mean, it's living your best life. I mean, this is part of what it takes to live your best life. If you're not on course, then you're off course. Well,
it's interesting that we always think, well, okay, we're going to talk about divine mapping and what really does that mean, with our subjects that we talk about on the radio show. And then the next segue we always go into is why. Why do we want to do it? Like, why do we want to create a life that has some divine mapping to it? And my answer is because. And when you take because and you break it down into the two words that make it up, it's because. Be the cause. Why? Because you want to be the cause of the life you want to create. You don't want to be this place where you're just getting knocked around in life. You want to be the cause of good energy. You want to be the cause of contribution. You want to be the cause of the good things that life has in store for us. And you think about the idea that this concept that God dreamed a bigger dream for me. When we get into that vibration, we can be the cause to unfolding and experiencing a bigger dream that God, the universal presence, has in store for us. And we can just enjoy the journey through that process because we are being the cause of our own energy contributions to the world.
And it may be a lot simpler than you might imagine because I think it was last week's show, or maybe it was the week before. I don't know. It becomes a blur. But I was talking about a friend that I know that really wants to get into like recovery counseling kind of thing, And the thing is, I mean, he's got like 18 years of recovery. I'm like, you're already an expert. You don't really need to, necessarily go to school for that. Maybe it'll benefit you to go to school and everything. But if you're saying I can't because I can't go to school, it's just allowing yourself to not get into this divine place, this path, because you're saying that X, Y, and Z isn't there, there's by us there's a recovery ranch. It's not far from us, and we happen to know some of the people there and stuff, and we're aware of like how it's being run and everything, and some people that graduated out of there that went there for recovery from drugs and alcohol, they left there and they decided that they wanted to do it. They wanted to start their own place, and they did. And they don't have 18 years of recovery. But they know what it takes. They've learned the blueprint, and they feel that they can contribute. So they've put a place together in Santa Barbara, and they just launched it, and now they have 5 people or so
or more. But it's interesting you're giving that example, Jack, because that part about divine timing is when you get into this flow and you don't hold any barriers back. What happened with them is actually they were talking about there's no next evolution once they got out of this recovery ranch. That was the way they felt would transition them to the next step in their life. And they were talking about this to a high-level real estate person in Santa Barbara. And that person said, well, gosh, I've owned all these properties that are high-end vacation homes, and they are a complete a lot of stress for me to constantly be turning them over and creating these high-end vacation rentals. And the places are beautiful, that, you know what, I think it would work better if we just turn this into a residential place for people that are, working their recovery program.
Yeah, so how about we just lease these to you?
And so it just kind of unfolded that way, where this divine mapping lined up with someone who owns real estate, wants to contribute in ways that help people live healthier lives, with also taking the stress out of his own place for this piece of investment property. So there's this divine, and so he didn't have to, this group did not have to wait 18, I have to wait, go to school, get their degree in order to do this. It was a commitment to, yes, the divine timing, the divine mapping. And sometimes in life...
Well, and they believe in the cause, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Be the cause of the energy you want to create in your life. But it's this powerful place that sometimes that when you get into this divine mapping, that opportunities could show up. And sometimes they can almost feel like, I don't want to say overwhelming, but they can be so amazingly unbelievable that it's like you have to expand immediately into this awesome new place for yourself. I feel that way sometimes with our love, Jack. I do. I say to myself, am I even equipped to assimilate the level of love this man has to give me? I'm serious. But at least I'm aware of it, so that I can, because they talk about this, and we've seen this with people who win the lottery. If they're not able to retain and absorb all this good that the world's given, that it just runs off. I mean, it's like a really dry desert land. When the rains come really heavy, the land is so hardened that it doesn't have the ability to absorb the water that fast, that sometimes it just runs right off.
And you're getting into this good place when you are more accepting of these things. You don't go like, oh my God, I can't believe it, and again, and whoa, and this, it's just like, yeah, okay.
You breathe it in, right. You receive it, you assimilate it, you allow it to absorb.
And ease and flow. Last week I was talking about I was given really good tickets to 2 events that I went to, and I just had lawn, and within like 3 or 4 days of one another. And that's, just part of getting into this good place. And I wasn't, I got to this place where I just like, yeah, okay, it is there. It really does work. It is a part of life. And you can get into this place where it's just, just.
And it's happening now.
Flow.
And it's happening now because just even in the last 48 hours, you've had some magical things happen, Jack, where synchronicity came. I mean, those were concert tickets from a while ago, and where you get into this rhythm and flow, but it's happening right now, even with a whole configuration of plans just happened where his son's coming out for New Year's, and it was like...
Right, and it was like, I don't know, 6 o'clock, he wasn't coming out, and by 7 o'clock we had all this stuff that just kind of worked together that came through, and now he's able to spend his vacation with us. Yeah,
and so it's this divine mapping. When we get into the flow, we got to be willing to act when it's time to act, even when sometimes we don't have all the answers, but we know it's clear and true to us.
Yeah, I mean, there's sometimes we just got to jump and we got to have faith and there's trust. I mean, there's times where it's a now stuff. If we just kind of sit there and we don't we're not activating this now kind of deal, being in the present and knowing when a yes is a yes and a no is a no, and when you're in tune with all this stuff, I mean, it just becomes a place of ease and flow. And yeah, that makes sense. No, this doesn't make sense. It's time for me to act, and I do so.
Yes. And it doesn't mean that, I don't want to say it's not easy, because it is an easy thing when you know the decision, you know it's right, you know you're following a divine course, a divine mapping, a divine track. But sometimes you got to be like water. You got to move around. You got to go up. You got to go under, whatever seems like a barrier in the way. Mm-hmm. It's not all this will and force. I mean, it's like when we were working on these tickets, because anybody who knows anything about air travel right now during the holiday seasons, I mean, the prices are just astronomical for flying right now. And so to find tickets and to find things to coordinate at the level and all these pieces and everything we were working on with having your son.
And to get a ticket for $205 is just, Well,
that was the one-way part of it.
That's pretty magical. But, I first really had to get into this place where I first started to get this sense of trust, and that, there was a universal force, there was a power greater than myself that actually works to help, support me. Was when I got into recovery almost 15 years ago. I got into recovery, and I had to just kind of get through a day and trust that tomorrow would be okay. I had to kind of give it up. There was things that would happen that was like too much for me to handle right then, so I had to kind of give it over and then just kind of trust that it was going to work out. And people always tell you, when you're going through something hard, like, it's going to be okay. And you're like, well, sometimes you'd be like, well, how do you know it's going to be okay? But the thing is, it is going to be okay, because that's the way the universe works.
So there's this divine timing that's happening when sometimes things don't feel like they're the way we'd want them to be in our minds. And I look at like the software business when I had that was definitely one of the hardest, heaviest times of my life, because I really thought that I could manifest and make something happen through the sheer will and willingness of my hard work and of my mind and of my positive thinking and motivation. And truth is, things did happen. Things did go well and successful in certain venues of the software business that I did do, but it was also very hard in certain ways. And there's a part of my life where I would think to myself, gosh, I should have made this decision later or this one earlier, or this would have changed the timing of everything. But then I look at like how, the way the time frame worked with the whole software business, the way the time frame worked even with my life with my divorce, that seemed like it took me many years to get out of my marriage and for everything to come to a close the way it did and to have closure. And then I look back and I say, when all the other pieces kicked in to my life in this really beautiful tapestry of some divine mapping where Jack, you and I started working together and we became something, I say to myself, the timing couldn't have been any different. Everything was positioning itself for when this new paradigm was ready to be born. It was born in my life. And it's like, if I would have ended my marriage and things would have came out differently, the timing of all these circumstantial things wouldn't have been lining up the same way for you and I in our path to intertwine the way it did.
Yeah, when you're trying to force your will, like you're trying to force something instead of, saying, maybe the answer isn't no, maybe the answer is not now. It just doesn't line up correctly. And by trusting in this life force, this divine mapping thing, that there is a destiny. There is, I have a destiny. I have a purpose. I am supported in that purpose. And maybe it's best that I just don't have this right now, because then things present themselves when they present themselves. This place of force. When I was working in wireless, I would call up our agent support line, and I would say, hey, I got a customer, he's got a problem, this is the thing, and I need this to happen. And they would say no, and then I'd argue, and I'd say, well, wait a minute, what do you mean no? And all this arguing and stuff, and then, but later I learned to just hang up and call back and talk to somebody else. Like somebody will say, "Oh, we can't do that. No, that doesn't work. It's not possible." And then I call back, I get somebody, and they say, "Oh yeah, we just put in the code 9947 and it'll work." And so that's a place of just cooperation instead of force.
So you figured out that there was different ways that people were navigating their world, and you learned to navigate with that in that business. Mm-hmm. That's really powerful for us to even remember to do that in our lives. And then this way we're collaborating.
Yeah. It's, with trust over force, you get into this place of openness, and you're also not compromising in ways that aren't part of who you are, that aren't in line with who you are. It's like, yeah, I'm open, but then I'm also staying true to myself. Because this force can happen in subtle ways when you're just trying to get someplace, so you can be trying to force it when you're not even realizing, you just think you're trying hard.
Oh, that's back to why I gave the example of what that software business represented in my life, because I really did think that I could work harder, smarter, give more, and that no matter what was happening, I could outpace it with my willingness to work harder, learn more, do more. Mm-hmm. And in a subtle way, that was a lot of force, where then something shifted in me, where I got this glimpse and this understanding, and trust became the thing now I trumped everything with. I knew that place that feels good, that vibration that was uncluttered, that place that I could, it was when this happened to me, it's like I even came back home and I saw, piles of paperwork, and all of a sudden that became like I understood the blockage of clutter. I became so clear and pristine in my way of thinking that trust became my highest trumping power. And I knew that that was more powerful than trying to outsmart something, outthink something, make something happen. And it's funny because Richard Branson functions, the entrepreneur who owns Virgin, functions that way.
Because sometimes you have to trust your gut and not your head. It comes from more a sense of feeling than all this mind and logic stuff. So Richard Branson, he says one of his assets is that he's dyslexic, because he doesn't necessarily understand all the numbers and everything perfectly, but he understands people and concepts and things like that. And he goes with his, sometimes he's just pure gut. And
even when the force of all his financial advisors and accountants are saying it should be this for that, it should be this for that, and you're weighing through all that analysis, he'll still go to, nope, I feel this, screw it, let's do it. That's his motto.
Yeah, screw it, let's do it. I love that. It's just this is a great place to be, right? I mean, when he knows he's in this tune, that he's just going to allow his music to play.
And that's that where trust just begins to trump everything. And people who are comfortable with unknowns, who can get comfortable, this power can really start activating in us of trust, because now the frontier in which we can travel and have opportunities becomes much more expansive, because we're not making our world small by only going into the known.
Yeah, so if you're an entrepreneur, you got to be comfortable with unknowns. It's just, and that's where these magical things can happen. To when they can just show up exactly when you need them, or hey, well, here's an example of an entrepreneur that was having, he had a big factory, he had a big business, but he wasn't doing well. I mean, he brought in huge amounts of money, but his margins were so small, and he made swimming pool liners. And then his factory roof started to leak, and he threw a swimming pool liner on top of his factory, and it worked so well that he started a company called Duralast, and they make these one-piece rubber roof deals, for flat top roofs, and his business went crazy. And then the guy's got a couple of jets now, and living life large.
Yeah, and that really comes from that openness of life, that place where we allow the magic to happen. We get comfortable with the unknown so that life can reveal its gifts to us. Those gifts come in our willingness to step out into the unknown.
Right. So we're kind of running out of time here, so we got about 5 minutes left. So Ann and I wanted to try something new this week. So we're going to kind of read to you kind of a meditation in a free flow kind of way. So Ann, you want to kind of take us on this journey?
Yeah, wherever you're at, I invite you in to this place that is your perfect divine destiny. Breathe in and out, whether you're driving in a car, whether you're at home. Allow this space inside of you to open up to that divine destiny, that divine mapping and tracking that's meant for you, where that natural passion and authenticness of who you are reveals itself to you today.
Where your prayers and wishes come true, your intentions draw you near. You synchronize in your path that is yours.
Where your life gets in harmony and in tune, like the symbol of 11, where you become empowered at 11, where you love at 11, where you no longer have to wait for X, Y, and Z to happen because you're there. You've made that decision. You love your life. You know that the universal loving presence that's all around is guiding your way, and you're following your destiny.
Start living inside your life. Be in the truest form of who you are and what you are meant here to be. And your gifts that you have inside of you, let them reveal themselves and present them to the world as the shining jewels and gifts that they are.
Allow them to rise up in the possibility, matching with activating who you are right now with this divine timing and mapping that's perfect for you and this destiny you were meant to live.
And let it flow in this path of least resistance, like water that always moves in the way that is in pure sync and in a way of art.
So do you move left? Do you move right? Do you go forward? Do you go back? You have the answers. Everything you need is inside of you. All the right opportunities, the right people at the right time are lining up, and it's happening. It's happening now because you're in that divine timing of this divine mapping, this destiny that's meant for you.
And what you need shows up when you need it, when you are ready for it, when you are ready to truly receive it. It is yours and yours alone. It is the power of the universe coming together to flow with this true life energy that empowers you.
So I invite you today on this day of 12-12-12 to mark the beginning of your new manifestations of the life that is meant for you. Become and be the empowered 11 life.
Well, okay. Well, thank you for listening to our show, and we will see you here next week. What will that be? December 19th at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And make sure to go to Facebook and like us and keep in touch with everything that's going on with Empower 11. And we will see you next week. Have an empowered week, everyone.